Hi, I'm James Swanwick, and I went from being broken-hearted, and living in a hostel to creating 7-figure businesses and traveling the world. I'm one of the passionate few. I've interviewed some of the world's top celebrities, and I thought I asked some of the greatest questions ever, but Omar just asked me some incredible questions. We talked about sleep, we talked about having our hearts broken, we talked about traveling the world and building 7-figure businesses. I hope you enjoy this interview.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast today. It's your host, Omar, and today we have an incredible interview as we get to sit down with the extraordinary James Swanwick. As the founder of Swanwick Glasses, James shares with us his incredible journey about how he grew up in humble beginnings in Australia, would later wing his way into doing interviews and interview some of the biggest celebrities on the planet, including ones he mentions personal stories he hasn't shared anywhere else before in this interview, on top of how he would later become an entrepreneur who's built a successful 7-figure business with these Swanwick blue light blocking glasses, which we actually wear during this interview. So with no further ado, I want to encourage you guys to sit back, relax, enjoy this roller coaster of an interview that'll take you around the world and back with my good friend and the inspiring entrepreneur helping people get sober and see more clearly in life in more ways than one, none other than James Swanwick. Enjoy. Thanks so much for being on the show today, James.
Thanks for having me, Omar.
Yes, beautiful setup here. Thank you for bringing us out in this beautiful setup, man.
Yeah.
So before we get into your passion in entrepreneurship, in health, in creating the Swannies, which we're both wearing, talk to me a little bit about where your passion first began in health and sort of how that's evolved throughout the years. Where did you grow up? How did the ball start rolling for you, and how did you start getting passionate about health?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Brisbane, Australia, and I was a societally acceptable drinker. I wasn't an alcoholic, but I drank like Australians drink. I had a couple beers each work night and a few more on the weekends. And it was okay through my 20s and early 30s, but then I got to my mid-30s and I realized that I'd put on some weight and I wasn't sleeping particularly well and my diet wasn't great. And I just felt kind of like blah, like a 6 out of 10. And so I actually quit drinking in 2010. I initially thought it was going to be like a 30-day break, and it's been almost 10 years now that I haven't had a drop of alcohol. But that, just changing that one habit of eliminating drinking, really sent me down this path of health and wellness, where I learned about the paleo diet and I learned about meditation and mindfulness and reducing stress and anxiety. And those first 30 days when I quit drinking, I lost 13 pounds of fat. My face went from kind of like soft and puffy to kind of nice, hard and chiseled.
Yes, yeah.
People were kind of like, "Oh, you look great. What's going on?"
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of like the catalyst for going into this exploration of health, wellness. Then eventually it turned into me helping people. I've become somewhat of a sleep expert because of the sleep glasses that you and I are both wearing now. And I'm just so motivated around creating businesses around health and wellness, and more particularly that help people. I mean, I was into health. I'd run a marathon. I played rugby growing up in high school. I played cricket and tennis. And, I'm not a professional athlete, but I like to consider myself as pretty good. The older I get in age, the better I think that I was back in my youth at sport, right? So I was healthy. I was active. But I was also, like a couple drinks a night adds up over time. And then it's not just the drinks that you have, even if you're not getting drunk, even if you're just having a seemingly innocent glass of wine or a beer
or whatever.
Yeah. I tended to order a burger and fries. Like if the fries came, I'm going to eat those fries, right? My dietary choices weren't that great because when you drink alcohol, it kind of makes you crave sugary foods and makes you crave carbs. And so I was more inclined to have kind of fatty foods and breads and, heavy stuff. So, I was kind of lucky because I was exercising a lot, but the stuff I was putting into my body wasn't great. And that was affecting, my mood, my focus, my clarity, my overall health.
And do you remember the day where you decided, like, today's day one?
Yeah. I was in Austin, Texas. It was in March 2010.
Yes.
I was at the South by Southwest Festival. It's an annual event there. And I went out on a Friday night. I only had 2 drinks. I had 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics.
You remember the final drinks?
I remember it, yeah. But I didn't even realize it was going to be the final
wow.
drinks. I had no idea. But I went out on Friday night. It was one of these industry parties. It was an open bar. I had a couple drinks, didn't get drunk, got a taxi home, went and stayed at my hotel, which was about 20 minutes outside of downtown Austin. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning and I could just taste like the gin in my mouth, and I looked in the mirror and kind of like my belly fat was kind of like hanging over my boxer shorts, and I looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a rock bottom moment by any stretch, but it was kind of like, man, you're just average. Like you're just kind of blah. And the hangover wasn't that bad. It was just, I was dehydrated. It was just kind of blah.
Yeah.
So I went next door to this hotel. There was an International House of Pancakes, an IHOP.
Yes.
And I went and sat down there, and the menus in an IHOP have photos of all of the food.
Yeah, all the pancakes and waffles.
Pancakes and waffles. And I looked to the left and to the right of me, and there were these, visibly obese people eating all-you-can-eat pancakes with whipped cream and stuff. And it was a overcast day, and I was looking out of the window of this IHOP, and there was a freeway there. It was a really not particularly pleasant setting.
How has this become my life?
Yeah. And I remember looking out the window, and I said, James, just take a break. Just 30 days. See if you can quit drinking for 30 days and just see what happens. So I just committed to that, and I did. I got to 30 days. I lost 13 pounds. I felt so good. I thought, I wonder if I can do 40 days. I wonder if I can do 60. I kept going and going and going. And then, funnily enough, a year later, I was back at the next year's South by Southwest Festival in Austin. And I went to a place called the Luster Pearl Bar in Rainey Street. It's not there anymore, but that's where it was at the time. And I went in to order a celebratory beer, and I ordered a Bud Light. And I went to put it to my lips. And just as I went to put it to my lips and drink it, something made me put the hand down. And I thought to myself, wow, in 1 year, I've lost about 25 pounds. I feel amazing. I got my dream job hosting a TV show. I ended up becoming a SportCenter anchor on ESPN.
Wow.
And I credit getting that job to the clarity and focus I had from being consistently alcohol-free. I had attracted this amazing romantic relationship into my life. I was sleeping better. I was positive. I was energetic. I had all this kind of stuff going for me. And so I put the beer down, and I said to the barman, take it away. I'll have a water, ice, and a piece of lime instead. Yeah. And I picked up the water, drank that, and literally I haven't picked up any alcoholic drink with the intention of drinking it since.
Wow. And it's been a decade now.
It's been a decade. That was 2010 that I quit, and then that story was 2011 the next year, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And then talk to me a little bit about how you got that job, because I know you interviewed some big-time celebrities. So talk to me, what were you doing professionally at that time when you were drinking? And how did you make that transition to that job for ESPN?
Yeah, so I started my professional career as a journalist. When I was in Australia, in Brisbane, I was a reporter for a Rupert Murdoch-owned broadsheet newspaper called the Courier-Mail. And I did that right out of high school from age 17 to age 23. And then when I was 23, I did what most young Australians do at the time. They go over to London in the UK, where you can work for 2 years. And from there, I got a job at Sky Sports, where I was covering English football or English soccer and Wimbledon and things like that. And, I was earning the British pound and sending some of the money back to Australia, and then also using the pound to go to South America, to Brazil and the carnival, and travel and, flirt with pretty Brazilian women and learn a bit of Portuguese. And then later on went to Colombia. So I did all that kind of stuff while I was in London. And then my girlfriend at the time broke up with me in 2002. And I was like heartbroken by it.
Why'd she leave you? Just things weren't working out?
Yeah, I just wasn't good enough for her at the time, I don't think. She wouldn't leave me now, I promise you.
Yeah.
But yeah, she dumped me. And I remember looking at a map of the world in my bedroom about 10 minutes after she'd left my home. And for whatever reason, Los Angeles just stood out on the map. And I went, all right, I'll just go to Los Angeles. So on Monday, I quit my job at Sky Sports, booked a flight, and on that Friday, which was September 30th, 2002, I got a flight to Los Angeles, where I checked into the Hermosa Beach hostel, which was about $15 a night to sleep in a bunk bed with a bunch of other snoring backpackers.
Wow.
It's about a 20-minute drive south of LAX. And I lived there for 90 days and 90 nights to cure this broken heart. And then when I was there, I thought, how am I going to work here? So I cold called movie studios, Sony, Universal, Paramount, Fox, Warner Brothers, and said, hey, I'm a journalist, I want to interview movie stars, how do I do it? And one publicist returned my call, and she was from Sony Pictures. And she said, yeah, come into the Sony lot and I'll explain how it all works. So I went into the Sony lot in LA, and she explained how I could interview movie stars, get it published in a magazine, and then, keep being invited by the movie studios to interview the movie stars. So I said, great. So I left. 2 weeks later, I checked my Hotmail address, and there was an email from this publicist saying, hey, I've got an interview opportunity with Jack Nicholson next week. He's promoting the film Anger Management. Would you like to interview him?
No
And I was
way.
like, hell yes, I would.
Holy cow. So real quick, before we get into that, so you literally just wung the idea and said, screw it, let me hit up studios?
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't do that. What was it that drove you to do it? Was it the desperation of wanting to prove your girlfriend wrong a little bit, wanting to prove yourself right? Was it going out on a limb? Had you always done things that sort of courageous, or what was different about that point in time?
Yeah, well, I think having the bravado to just cold call, I think I learned from being a daily newspaper reporter. Because when you're a reporter, your chief of staff gives you an assignment each day and says, right, you need to get this story by the end of the day. So you have to hit the phones, persuade people to talk to you.
You got to figure it out.
Figure it out, write the story, submit it so it appears in the next day's newspaper. So I wasn't scared to just pick up the phone and start calling people. What was my motivation then? Well, I'd been in LA, I think, about 6 weeks when I started doing that, and I realized that America was somewhere where I really wanted to be and wanted to live. And I was like, this is great. I'm like, screw my girlfriend back in cold, miserable London. I'm living here with palm trees in California.
Interviewing Jack Nicholson now.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like what was driving me. And then, like fast forward a few weeks after that, I found myself in the Armitage Hotel on Burton Way in Beverly Hills, up in the penthouse suite, sitting down opposite the two-time Oscar winner Jack Nicholson, just an absolute legend in the movie industry, and interviewed him for about 25 minutes.
Were you nervous?
I was so nervous. I was incredibly nervous, but at the same time, I was so excited that 3 weeks earlier, I just started cold calling studios, and within 3 weeks, I'm like sitting opposite this iconic Hollywood legend. And I remember I'll give you one little anecdote about Jack Nicholson. I remember I asked him, because he came in wearing glasses, not dissimilar to the ones we're wearing, like he likes to wear blue light blocking glasses, right? He wears glasses indoors and stuff. And I said to him, Jack, what's it really like to be Jack? I mean, you've got the women, you've had the drugs, you've got all the fans, you've got all this kind of stuff. Like, what's it really like to be...
the fame,
What's it like to be Jack? And he paused, and he does this. He pulls his glasses down, and he goes, it doesn't suck. I was like, I love that. That's so classic Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And so, I published that interview in a magazine over in England. I had them send it to me over to the hostel that I was still living in Hermosa Beach. I then took the magazine, it said by James Swanwick, interview with Jack Nicholson. I then took it up to a FedEx, Kinko's, up on PCH in Hermosa Beach.
Wow.
And I photocopied it 30 times. And then I got the addresses of all the studios that had declined my cold call, and I sent it to them in the mail and said, hey, I interviewed Jack Nicholson. Maybe you'd let me interview some of your stars now. And they did. Next thing, I got invited to interview Arnold Schwarzenegger for Terminator 3.
Wow.
I think it was called Terminator Salvation.
How old were you at this time?
I was 27. And then I interviewed Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then next thing I know, I was being invited to interview Jennifer Aniston and Ben Stiller for the movie Along Came Polly. And then later I got invited to interview George Clooney for Syriana and Matt Damon for Stuck on You. And next thing I knew, I was being flown over to New York to do the interviews. I was doing set visits. And then I would do these interviews and then sell the interviews to magazines around the world and get paid. And then ultimately I figured out how to get a work visa in the US and move out of the hostel, move up into Hollywood, and create a really nice life for myself as an entertainment journalist correspondent in LA.
Wow, that's incredible. How long did that last?
I did that from about 2003 until about 2009. And then I started a news agency around 2008, and it was a complete disaster, really, because as soon as I started it, well, it was great for the first 6 months, and I got this 6-floor corner office on Sunset Boulevard with the palm trees, and I was driving around in a Jaguar, and I thought I'd kind of made it. I was like the Aussie guy who'd come over to LA on a risk and
now living the dream,
living the American dream. And then the financial crisis hit. Remember, like Lehman Brothers collapsed and the housing bubble burst, and there was all this financial Armageddon, and almost overnight, all of the news agencies that were buying interviews from me and other journalists started not buying as many and offering half as much. And so within the space of, I think, 9 or 10 months, I literally had to shut the whole thing down. I gave back the Jaguar, I got out of the lease, and I flew to Buenos Aires, Argentina for 6 months, because I just read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, and he was always talking about being in Buenos Aires. And I went down there to kind of lick my wounds, because I was like, wow, I was doing so well for like 5 or 6 years. Then I took this bet on building a business, overextended myself, bad timing, didn't lose it all, but lost essentially all of that business.
And the momentum of that. Now, talk to me, was that your first foray into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Well, I guess you could argue that my first foray into entrepreneurship was when I was a journalist, a celebrity journalist interviewing movie stars, because I was really working for myself. It wasn't like I had a job for an organization. So I guess I was kind of naturally learning how to be an entrepreneur as I was like a sole proprietor, like a sole business.
So you were learning about how to scale entrepreneurship or scale the skill set.
Yeah. But truthfully, I didn't realize that I was being an entrepreneur, or practicing an entrepreneur. I just thought I was like a sole freelancer who was just, making money for himself, but I didn't really understand business that particularly well. My first effort was the news agency, and it lasted, like I said, 8 or 9 months, and it was a complete disaster.
So at that time, how old are you after that?
So I'm up around then. So when it started going pear-shaped, I was about 34, 35. And then when I came back from Buenos Aires after 6 months, that was when I started going alcohol-free. And then from there, I did this, not just a 30-day no alcohol challenge, but I did this 30-day I'm going to help my friends challenge. Because I just read this amazing book by an author named Keith Ferrazzi, who wrote a book called Never Eat Alone. It's the best networking book I've ever read.
Never Eat Alone.
Yeah, Never Eat Alone.
I love it, yeah.
And he says in the book, you can make more people interested in you by being interested in them in 5 minutes than you can in trying to spend a whole lifetime trying to get people interested in you.
True.
So I did this 30-day help a friend challenge, and I drew up a list on a whiteboard of all my friends. And I just started saying, hey, who do you need connecting to? What help do you need? How are you? How can I help? And one of the friends who I helped during that challenge, he phoned me up about 2 weeks later and said, hey, ESPN is looking for an international anchor to host SportCenter. And I thought you'd be really good for it. I know you have 0 television experience, but I know you've interviewed celebrities and stars and stuff. Maybe this would be good for you. And I said, absolutely, introduce me. So he introduced me to an ESPN producer, and without going into like the long, laborious story, I flew over to Bristol, Connecticut, where ESPN is based, and I persuaded this producer to give me a screen test. He did.
Yeah.
It was awful, failed, and he said, thanks for coming, but no.
Yeah.
But I asked him, can I come back tomorrow and give it one more shot? He agreed, went back the next day, I nailed it, and then 2 weeks later, in May of 2010, I made my debut hosting SportCenter on ESPN.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Now, during this time period, I mean, to people listening or, people aspiring to live out their own dreams or pursue their own, passions and purpose, they might hear it and be like, oh shit, that sounds pretty smooth for James. But I know you're leaving out a lot of times, or maybe you were financially tough or struggles or failures. Talk to me about some of the struggles you were dealing with at that time, before all these synchronicities started lining up. I mean, what were you going through at that time?
Well, when I first came to the US, I was literally living in a hostel, like I said, and it's like $15 a night. And I was very fortunate that I had a couple of guys, Australian guys, who let me do some laboring work for $75 cash a day. So they were building a house in Bel Air, so they'd pick me up from the hostel at 6:30 in the morning and would drive up the 405 to this place in Bel Air. And I'd never done a day's manual labor in my life. But I helped out, and I moved some bricks around and cleaned up. And
so on days you weren't interviewing celebrities, you were doing this,
that's right.
Living in a hostel. Yeah. So you were living like a double life in a sense.
Yeah. Funnily enough, on that Jack Nicholson interview day, I started the day up in Bel Air doing
penthouse in Beverly Hills. Yeah.
And I borrowed my friend's van, like his construction man to drive down to the Armitage Hotel, and I changed in the foyer of the Armitage Hotel into nicer clothes. Went up, did the interview, came down, got back into my stuff, and went back up to Bel Air again.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I can actually relate to that because when I first started doing interviews, I was so broke that I didn't even have enough money for an Uber. So friends would drive me. I would buy clothes, like I would buy suits and then return them after to go do interviews. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I could relate. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, and then other ways, you know, when I started getting the consistent money coming in from the interviews, things started to get a little bit better. But just in that segue from when I just started to when it was consistent, I moved out of that hostel and I joined the Los Angeles Rugby Club, and I made 20 new friends right away, which was huge. I mean, people always ask me, like, how do you be successful? It's like, you've got to get into a network. You've got to get into a group of like-minded people who support you and who you can support. And joining that club, the Los Angeles Rugby Club, I got 20 new friends, and one of the guys had a spare room in his place up on PCH in Hermosa Beach. And I said, look, I don't have much money. And he said, I'll charge you half price rent. I said, thank you so much. And so I did. I paid half price rent for 6 months. And then later on, or a couple of years later, when I started to get a bit more money, I set him back like the
difference.
The difference, yeah. So I was fortunate that I got to lean on friends for that, but I was also smart in the sense that I made sure that I tapped into a group of like-minded friends who want to support you.
Totally. Yeah.
And who I could support as well. Look, my ego took a big hit when I lost that business in 2009. And even though I was loving being in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at the same time, I was really licking my wounds. I was like, wow, I thought I was a rock star, and I really wasn't. And then in Argentina, it was so cheap. So, you know, I'd like to say that it was a conscious decision. I'm just going to go to Argentina because Tim Ferriss says it's cool. But really, I went there because it doesn't cost much money, and my US dollar was going to go a lot further than it would in Los Angeles. So I did. So 6 months I spent in a third world country, just out of almost like financial necessity, in a way. But it was such a wonderful experience there, nonetheless.
Were you doing it to sort of find yourself?
Yeah, I was, totally.
So you didn't have like a plan per se? Because I noticed a recurring theme for you is traveling.
Yeah.
What has traveling done for you, and would you recommend it to people? I've traveled quite a bit, and I found that it opens your mind. You start thinking about new things. You learn new cultures and people. What benefits has traveling had for you?
I mean, it's been everything. It's just shaped who I am today. I've been to 50-something plus countries. I've lived in Argentina, Colombia, the UK, the US. In the US, I've lived in New York and LA and Austin. I've traveled to Indonesia, right through the Middle East, up through Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, and Europe, South America. I mean, all the places I've been have been fabulous. And every time I go there, I get these new creative ideas on businesses, on ways to live life, on how to hire people in countries where they're a lot cheaper, but they're amazing workers and amazing creative people. You get into adventures. You're forced to figure things out. Like I think a lot of people who don't travel, it's easy to fall into the trap of like, everything's comfortable. I don't really have to hustle that much because I got my home, I've got my job, I've got my money, and so everything's kind of
stable.
Whereas when you travel, things can go wrong. I got robbed at gunpoint when I was in Salvador at the carnival in Brazil one year.
Wow.
I had my money stolen, had all those kind of things, and at the time it feels traumatic. But in hindsight, I look back and I go, wow, that so shaped me, because now I can figure anything out. Like there's a lot to say for flying into a country that you don't know, like Buenos Aires, not knowing where you're going to sleep that night, not knowing anyone, and then you just have to figure it out. Yeah. Plus you don't speak Spanish, and I like putting myself in those kind of environments. Like I like not booking accommodation on the night that I land. I like just flying in and going, okay, let's figure this out, because it works my brain. It excites me, and it helps me get creative. Not just trying to find somewhere to sleep, but it helps me get creative later on. Whether it's building the Swannies blue light blocking glasses or building a business to help people quit drinking, travel just helps me get creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works the improv muscle.
Yeah, totally.
Which you totally need in business as well. And it probably makes business a little bit easier too, because you're like, oh, I've solved problems in foreign languages. Now I can solve it with people who are speaking my language, my team. Yeah, it just reps that muscle.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, and then where does the insight for Swannies come into play?
Yeah. So I was living in LA in 2015, and I went to Palm Springs with my mentor, a guy called Ty Lopez. And I was there with him and a few people, and we went out to dinner, and there was a friend of mine, a guy called Mark Dharma. And we were in this hotel restaurant in Palm Springs, and he was wearing these really ugly and unsightly pair of Uvex safety glasses.
Yeah.
Kind of glasses that you'd see a workman using if he was, mowing the lawn or cutting, you know.
Almost like goggles.
Yeah, almost like goggles. And I was looking around, initially thinking, like, why is he wearing those ridiculous glasses? And there was a table of very attractive women adjacent to our table, and they were kind of looking at him funny as well. And I saw this, and I said to Mark, Mark, get those ridiculous glasses off. You look ridiculous, and you're making me look ridiculous by association. And he kind of laughed, and he said, no, man, I'm trying to block the blue light. And I said, block the blue light? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And Mark went on to explain how the hotel restaurant lights and the light from our cell phone screen and our TV screen and the traffic lights and the bathroom light and the microwave light and the refrigerator light, all of that light is at night when we stare into it without protecting our eyes, is actually convincing and tricking our brain and body into thinking that it's daytime. And when our body thinks it's daytime, when it's actually nighttime, we don't produce as much melatonin. We don't sleep as well. So a lot of people either have trouble falling asleep, or they toss and turn in the night, or they wake up feeling tired even if they've had 7 or 8 hours sleep. So he went on to explain this to me, and I was a little bit skeptical. But anyway, I went back to Los Angeles a couple of nights later, and I went into my cupboard and I dug out a pair of ski goggles that I used each year that I went to Park City, Utah to go skiing. And the goggles had like a yellow tint to them. And at the time, I was at night time, I was watching reruns of the TV series Mad Men. It's an AMC TV series.
I love it with John Hamm, yeah.
Yeah, with John Hamm. And so I put these ridiculous goggles on and I started watching Mad Men from like 10 o'clock at night. And what I found was I was noticeably more relaxed and I was noticeably sleepier as I got into this program. Whereas ordinarily I would watch the show staring into the blue light of my screen, watching the show, and I would watch a whole 50-minute episode and then go to sleep. When I was wearing the goggles, I would only get to like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and I'd have to take them off, turn off the light, roll over and go to sleep. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. If I block the blue light, I get sleepier and I end up sleeping better. So I did this protocol, I guess you want to call it, for like 3 or 4 weeks, where I'm wearing these ridiculous glasses. And the idea for the Swannies blue light blocking glasses came on a Friday night when I was watching Mad Men. I had to get up early the next day, and someone texted me and said, hey James, we're at the Laurel Hardware restaurant on Melrose Place or Melrose Avenue around the corner. Come out and join us. And there's some pretty girls there. I was single at the time. And I'm wearing these ridiculous ski goggles, and I'm like, I don't want to wear the ski goggles out, but I also don't want to take them off because I want to get up early and have a great night's sleep. And that was when the idea hit me. How can I put the orange lens technology into a stylish enough frame that I would feel comfortable going out to a Hollywood restaurant on a Friday night wearing and not feel like people were looking at me going, what the hell are you doing? And so that's how the idea for a stylish pair of blue light blocking glasses came to fruition, and ultimately that turned into Swannies from my sleep company, Swanwick Sleep. And I guess 4 years later now, it's 100,000 plus people are wearing these glasses around the world. It all came out of wanting to sleep better and my vanity of not wanting to look ridiculous.
Yeah, and you guys you broke your first $1 million in sales in less than a year, right?
Yeah, we got prototypes made, we tested it out, we launched on Amazon, and we did $1 million in sales in about 11 and a half months.
That's incredible. Now talk to me about from that first idea, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs watching, and I know they're thinking like, okay, you went from idea to $1 million, but it wasn't that easy. So talk to me about, like step 1, step 2, step 3, from how you went from idea to then start attacking it, because you had no experience making glasses, going overseas to get the products, to find the lenses. Yeah. So take me, like, what was step 1, 2, and 3 from idea to take the steps to creation?
Yeah. Step 1 is I phoned my youngest brother, Tristan, and I said to him, I got this idea for a pair of stylish blue light blocking glasses. I don't really want to source them or go to China and figure out how to get them. I'm not interested in that, but I am interested in marketing them. So if you want to go 50-50 with me in the business, if you can figure out how to get the glasses made, I will market the hell out of them. And so we agreed to do that. And so
was he an entrepreneur?
No, he actually was a newspaper reporter as well, and he'd just quit his job, the same job that I had years before as well, and he wasn't doing anything. And I said, let's try and build a business together. So he spent a couple months reaching out to Chinese manufacturers of glasses. He would then send them over to me where I was in Los Angeles, because Tristan lived in Brisbane, Australia. I was living in LA, and I was having these weekly poker nights at my place in West Hollywood, and these prototypes would come over from my brother Tristan, and I'd hand the glasses out to my friends and say, what do you think of these? What do you think of these? And a couple of people who are playing poker, I think you may have had on your show or know, Eli Wilhide and a few other notable people were there. Ty Lopez came over and played one time. But I'd hand these glasses out, and they'd say, these suck. Oh, I like these. And then through a process of elimination, I settled on pretty much close to the frame that you're wearing and I'm wearing right now. So then we asked to do a minimum order of 300, and they wanted 1,000. But we managed to convince them to let us do the 300, which was fantastic. And then I coughed up the money and paid. So I had initial outlay, and I was like, this is a bit of a risk here.
Yeah.
And they sent the 300 pairs over to LA. But the first 300 pairs got stuck at customs because, unbeknownst to us, glasses are considered a medical device. Right? And so we needed to get approved by the FTC to approve them as a medical device. And I was like, I didn't know this. And so it was stuck there, and to pay that fee, it was another $3,000. So I was like, man, do I really want to pay $3,000 to do this? And I did. I took the risk, paid the $3,000 extra. We got them, we sent them to Amazon's warehouse, we did a description. I asked some people who were already selling on Amazon, how did you sell your products? They gave me some great advice. And then we launched on Black Friday 2015. And I just got on my personal Facebook page and said, hey, these glasses help you sleep. I asked my friends to promote them. We launched on Amazon. We pushed, we did everything. I had a podcast at the time, the James Swanwick Show, which I've just recently relaunched again. And I was telling people about them, and I was begging people, please buy these, please buy these. I was even like...
how much was the price when they launched them?
$67, yeah. And I even persuaded my friends. I said, can you buy them on Amazon and write a review, and I'll pay you back the $67, just so Amazon's algorithm can see that there's sales happening, so it promotes it more, and there's a review so people feel more inclined to trust the product. So, in that first kind of couple of weeks, it's like you'll do anything to try and get sales.
Get the ball rolling.
The ball rolling. And we got the ball rolling. And then it did okay. The first day we sold 6 pairs. I thought, great. But then the next day we sold 4. I was like, we're going backwards. This is not good.
Yeah.
But then slowly we kind of stayed around under 10 sales a day for about 2 or 3 months. And then I was interviewed on Dave Asprey's podcast, Bulletproof Radio. And, his audience really resonated with it. And overnight it just jumped up to like 50 sales a day, just from being on that one podcast episode. And then from there we just kind of we rode the momentum and got into the biohacking world and went to some conferences. And then I put the glasses on Ty Lopez. He put them on his Snapchat and Instagram. I met Arnold Schwarzenegger and put a pair on Arnold Schwarzenegger. And little by little, just kind of created this kind of cool factor with them. And somehow we went, like I said, we got to $1 million in 11.5 months. It just kind of snowballed.
Yeah. And one of the most beautiful parts about it, and we were talking about it off camera before we started the interview, you were saying that what's beautiful about it marketing-wise is that it's on people's faces. So people go, hey, what kind of glasses are those? And so it creates that sort of viral conversation.
Yeah. It's funny you should bring that up, because Ty Lopez was gracious enough to invite me to go to Arnold Schwarzenegger's home a few years ago. It was about a year after I'd launched or in the first year that I'd launched the glasses. And I deliberately wore a pair of glasses, as I always do, but I also deliberately made sure I had a second pair in my pocket in case Schwarzenegger was curious enough to ask me about them and I could get a photo opportunity.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what happened. Ty and I were in Schwarzenegger's kitchen. There was a big party there, about 150 people, but he'd gone into his kitchen. He was sitting on a stool and he was smoking a cigar, talking to a woman. And I saw him in there, and Ty was playing poker. And I said, Ty, Schwarzenegger's alone. Come on, let's go. So he gets up from the table, and we kind of we race over, look in, see he's there, and then we kind of slow down and very calmly and collectively walk in and say, oh, hi Arnold. And we get talking. And I'm talking to him like this. And in my mind, the story in my head is like, please ask me about my glasses. Please ask me about my glasses. And then finally, after about 15 minutes of chatting, he goes, what are those weird glasses you're wearing? And my internal dialogue was, yes. And I said, the orange lens blocks the artificial blue light.
You had the whole script ready to
had
go.
The whole script ready. It's really good to help you sleep. And then he told me a story about how he was on Air Force One with the former President George Bush, not George W., but George Bush Sr., and how he fell asleep on the floor of Air Force One and the president kicked him, which I thought was hilarious. But in my head, I'm still thinking, I need to get these glasses on Schwarzenegger's head somehow. And I said, I love that story. Yeah, you should try them out. And he goes, yeah, sure. I said, actually, yeah, try these on. Yeah. And so he puts these glasses on. I'm like, they look great. And I didn't even ask if I could take the photo. I just pulled out my iPhone. I said, let's get a photo. And so he smiled and I went, click. And that photo I've used in all of my marketing and sent out all over the place.
Yeah.
And he ended up doing a video with me as well. He goes, I hit record and he goes, he tells me these glasses are going to make me sleep better tonight. And then he goes, and like puts his head down and pretends to fall asleep.
That's brilliant.
And I used that video in my marketing.
Yeah, I'm sure on your drive home you were texting, hey Tristan, guess what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So how long has Swannies been around at this stage?
So we launched 2015, Thanksgiving 2015.
That's amazing. And talk to me a little bit about also your infatuation with sleep and the study of it. What have you learned through your research and through your experience throughout the years that you can help the audience with? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, all people in general deal with it, but entrepreneurs especially struggle with sleep.
Yeah.
They got problems and challenges, not to mention the blue light issue, up at night thinking about the money or the team or the marketing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about sleep? How important is it? And what's some advice you would give to people about how to optimize it, aside from, Swannies or protecting their eyes?
Yeah. So I'll first tell you what most people are doing wrong and what people are doing that is compromising their sleep. And then I'll walk you through like the gold standard of how to sleep much better.
Perfect.
So what you're probably doing wrong right now, and I'll look into one of these cameras, like if you're watching this camera on a YouTube video or a screen or on a desktop or whatever, and you don't have a pair of glasses and it's nighttime, you're staring into that screen and the blue light is hitting your eyes and it's convincing your body and brain that it's daytime. So melatonin is not being produced, okay? So like I said before, that means that you'll either have trouble falling asleep, your mind will stay active, sleep quality will be compromised, you'll wake up tired, right? So when you're staring into that screen think about how long we stare into screens all day anyway, like 7-8 hours.
Hours, yeah.
That's causing like macular degeneration, it causes headaches, lack of clarity, lack of focus. But particularly at nighttime, if you're staring into the screen, that's just destroying your sleep. And if you don't sleep well, you don't make as much money, you're not as productive, you're not as happy, like life just becomes kind of irritable, right? So what do we do instead? Well, the secret really is to do anything you can to block as much artificial light at night as possible. The absolute gold standard is to live your life by candlelight, right? It's to never turn on a light switch. Don't go outside with the traffic lights or the lights. Don't watch TV. Never have a phone. Sit in your house in the dark and just light a candle, because firelight and flame does not disrupt melatonin. But let's face it, no one in the modern world is going to do that, right? No one. So what can you do? Well, there's a number of things, and I'll end with blocking the light with the glasses. But certainly on your computer, there is an app called Flux. And if you download Flux, it will, as nighttime happens, and it knows where you are in the world, it'll start to slowly strip away the blue light from your screen. And so your screen will start to go an amber color. And that reduces the blue light exposure. On your iPhone, you have something called night shift. And if you go into settings, you can activate that. And again, let's say it's 7 o'clock at night, the sun's starting to go down. The screen will start to reduce the blue light exposure, and the screen will start to look amber, yellow, and ultimately orange. That will help as well. Really, the best thing you can do is wear a pair of blue light blocking glasses. Of course, I'm biased. This is my own pair, my own company. These are Swannies. I challenge you to find a more stylish pair out there, but you can. Whether you get like a cheap $9 pair on Amazon, or you get, a pair like mine, which are more, high scale, block as much of that blue light as possible with a pair of glasses. As I promise you, you will see a noticeable difference in your sleep quality. Now, the gold standard from when you wake up in the morning, it's really important. And then first thing when you wake up in the morning, you actually want to expose yourself to as much blue light as possible. And what I mean by blue light is the sun is the biggest emitter of blue light there is. So first thing in the morning, you want your skin to get the sun's rays on your hands and on your arms. Your skin have receptors in it, which tells your body, oh, this is wake up time. Now, knowing that your body ultimately, like 12, 14 hours later, is then going to want to naturally start to fall asleep
Sooner.
because you exposed it to sunlight first thing in the morning.
Wow, yeah.
So
It's almost like nature already set it up perfectly for our biology, but we've thrown all this technology and lost sight of what actual natural rhythms are.
That's
Yeah.
right. So first thing in the morning, expose yourself to sunlight. Late at night, block as much artificial light as possible. They've done studies that show morning exercise helps you sleep better at night versus nighttime exercise, and I think it's because of two reasons. One, people who exercise in the morning tend to do it more consistently because it's first thing in the morning, they get it out of the way, whereas if you're exercising in the evening, you're less likely to do it. And if you're exercising more, people who exercise more tend to be healthier in general. And the second reason is that if you exercise close to bedtime, your core body temperature rises. And so that's not conducive to a good night's sleep. You actually want to sleep in a very cool environment, 65 to 69 degrees Fahrenheit. All the studies show that's the most optimal temperature to sleep in. No coffee after 2 p.m. Coffee is a stimulant. There's probably people saying, oh, that's ridiculous. I have coffee and I sleep just fine. Well, the thing is, you may fall asleep just fine, but your sleep quality is still going to be compromised by that caffeine. Don't drink at all, because I'm a big proponent of not drinking at all. But if you are going to,
I don't drink either, for the record, so I agree with you 100%.
If you are going to drink, don't drink within a couple of hours of bed, because your body's going to start trying to work to break down the alcohol and all that sugar, and that's going to compromise your sleep. And then obviously block as much blue light as you can. Blackout curtains. You don't want any light coming through. You want to create like a cave. Imagine we were a caveman and we used to sleep under the stars, or we slept in caves. You want to try and mimic that. But really, the biggest leverage point, in my opinion, and based on studies and studies of the human body, is expose yourself to as much sunlight as you can first thing in the morning, and block as much artificial light by wearing a pair of glasses at night.
Wow. What about nighttime rituals that you have? Do you recommend people, even if they have the blue light on their phone, or the protective glass on their phone, or they're wearing Swannies, do you find that do you have any rules in particular where you don't use technology for the last 30 minutes, or do you find that it's unrealistic to sustain those rituals? What have you found personally for you works in terms of your nighttime routines?
Yeah. Well, look, I can tell you with best intentions, and to people watching, turn off your electronics in the last 30 minutes or hour before you go to bed. But I'm experienced enough to know that you're just not going to do it. And I know that because I consider myself pretty growth-minded and done lots of personal development, and I'm pretty strict, and I don't do it. I'm guilty of going to bed and checking my phone.
Yeah.
Even though I know I shouldn't. But I'm always checking my phone by wearing a pair of blue light blocking glasses. So yes, turn off your devices an hour before bed, but I know you're not going to do it because we're all addicts. So knowing that you're not going to do it, definitely wear the glasses. I will say this, something that I do in the morning routine helps me sleep better. I have this exercise called the Daily 20, and I write down 20 things that I'm grateful for every single morning, and I'm not allowed to put my hand on my phone until I've written those 20 things. So I have an alarm clock, which is a separate alarm clock. The alarm isn't in my phone. So when the alarm goes off, I hit the alarm. My hand is on the alarm, not on my phone. I then know that before I can even turn my phone off airplane mode and even look at it and go into reactionary mode, I must get up, use the bathroom, sit down, and very intentionally write down 20 things that I'm grateful for. People say, why 20? Why don't you just do 3 things? I'm like, well, 3 things are nice, but 20 forces you to really think about what you are grateful for. And what it does is activate something called your reticular activating system, otherwise known as RAS. And what your RAS does is that it looks for evidence of what it is that you're thinking about all the time. So if I say to you now, red Tesla, red Tesla, a red Tesla, in the next 24, 48 hours, you will probably notice a red Tesla somewhere, all right? Likewise, if you do the Daily 20 and you're saying 20 things I'm grateful for, and now what else am I grateful for? Oh, I'm grateful for the palm trees, I'm grateful for the sun, I'm grateful for the great night's sleep, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful that someone wants to interview me on his podcast, I'm grateful that I got to connect with Omar today. 20 things. Now you're searching for things to be grateful for. when you finish that and you go about your day, you just start seeing other things to be grateful for.
Yes.
And because you're in a happier mood and more importantly, a less stressed mood, that improves your sleep quality because it helps you get to sleep a lot quicker and helps you get out of this like, oh, I'm not making enough money, my life sucks, I'm really struggling, what am I going to do? Which we're all guilty of as entrepreneurs. So I would definitely encourage you, whether you do the daily 20 first thing in the morning or you do it as part of your nighttime routine, do it. Because for me, it's like one of the huge, not secret weapons, but magic ingredients for me being successful, not just with my sleep, but as an entrepreneur and in relationships in general.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to ask you also, you look like you're in phenomenal shape and phenomenal health.
Thank you.
What are your personal routines or rituals as it comes to health and fitness? Do you work out X amount of days a week? The morning, I know you said the morning is, the ritual you prefer. What's your health and exercise routine usually?
So I take the mindset that I'm going to exercise 7 days a week. I don't exercise 7 days a week, but I start each week saying, I'm someone who exercises every day. Now, life gets in the way and I don't always do that. So what ends up happening is that I end up exercising 4 or 5 days in the week, and that's terrific. And then there's a day or two where I might be flying or I got to get up early and it just doesn't happen, and I'm okay with that. I learned that actually from a guy called Tony Horton, who's the face of P90X.
Yes, I
that
just
did like
met him.
$1 billion in sales, and he actually coached me on that. He was like, he just said to me, I just take the attitude that I exercise every day. And sometimes I do exercise every day and sometimes I don't. So for me, I just have built in that ritual. When I go to sleep each night, I get my exercise clothes ready. So I have my shorts, my shirt, my shoes, my sock, my water bottle, my bag, everything ready to go. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I see are those exercise clothes. I put the exercise clothes on, I go and do my daily 20, and then I walk out the door and I go to the gym, or I'll do a high intensity workout. I'll go and lift weights at Gold's Gym if I'm in Los Angeles, for example. But the visual cue of seeing the exercise clothes there gets me to put them on. And because I'm wearing them, the chances of me walking out the door and exercising are about 99.9%. Versus a lot of people who wake up in the morning with the intention of exercising, but they haven't prepared their shorts or their shirt or their water bottle, and now they're rummaging around. They're like, I'll do it tomorrow. So I'm a morning exerciser. I tend to eat paleo lifestyle. So I eat meat and vegetables. I try to avoid pastas and breads and grains if I can. 80% of the time, I think I eat flawlessly. 20% of the time, I have an ice cream and eat some Doritos or whatever. Like, I'm not that strict that I'm not ever going to eat it. But because I'm eating healthily 80% of the time, my life is good. I'm not stressed. If I have a pack of Doritos on occasion, like, that feels pretty good. And so if you just exercise consistently and you eat well consistently and you reduce stress and anxiety by the daily 20, and you sleep well by wearing a pair of blue light blocking glasses, and you have great relationships, life just feels pretty damn good from there.
Yeah, things flow. I love that. Now, what about meditation? Is that something that's a part of your daily routine or ritual or weekly routine?
So I could tell you a complete lie, which is something that you might want to hear. And the lie would be I meditate every day.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly beneficial to me and I love it. The truth is that I meditate sometimes and it's incredibly beneficial to me and I love it when I do it. When I'm not doing it, it always feels like a struggle to actually begin. So I have this love-hate relationship with it where it's like I hate to start because I'm a bit ADD, you know,
Sure.
it's like, oh, ironically, that's the exact type of personality that should be meditating. But then when I do it, I absolutely love it. I did a 10-day silent meditation called Vipassana in 29 Palms around Joshua Tree some years ago. And that was really quite challenging to do 10 days of not talking to anyone and just 10 days of meditation. So I can do it. But on a day-to-day basis, if I can do 10 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week, for me, that feels beneficial. Some people will say you should be doing 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes every single day. Yeah, probably. I don't, but I do it 3, sometimes 4 times a week, and I find immense benefit from it.
It's beautiful. Now, what are some projects you have coming up? Excuse me. What are some projects you have coming up or things you're working on and where people can find you a little bit more? Before we wrap up with some last questions of advice, just for people who might want to either purchase Swanwick's or maybe they want to get in touch with you and they want help with stopping drinking,
Yeah.
where can people find you, and what can you help people with? What do you specialize in helping people with?
Thank you. Yeah. So if you're interested in wearing a pair of blue light blocking glasses, the Swannies, then you can just go to swanwicksleep.com, or you can type in Swannies or Swanwick on Amazon. You can get a pair there. We've got kids glasses as well. Lots of parents like to get it for their kids because the kids are addicted to iPads and computer games these days. It's really disruptive to their sleep. And if you'd like to, reduce alcohol or quit alcohol, you can go to jamesswanwick.com/guide or 30daynoalcoholchallenge.com. There's like an introductory program, 30 days, 30daynoalcoholchallenge.com. And then for someone who wants to do more like a year, 90 days to a year quitting drinking, I do have a program that's named Project 90. And you can just send me a message on Instagram, DM me, or email me at james@jamesswanwick.com, and I can send you details. So there's lots of free stuff that I give out to people on my YouTube channel as well. So whether you want to sleep better and look cool wearing a pair of glasses like Omar here, or whether you want to quit or reduce drinking, you can find me, send me a DM, follow me on Instagram, and I'll be happy to send you some free resources.
Beautiful, man. And then before we wrap up, I just want to ask 3 last questions for entrepreneurs out there who might see your story and have their own visions and goals, and they're trying to figure out how to make their life work. Number 1 is, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are maybe stuck in that rut of maybe, trying something and failing? Every entrepreneur experiences it at every level. Even when the business is successful, internally there could be, failures in scaling or whatever it is. So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are just starting out and looking to, make their life work or get that product or idea off the ground, or maybe they're struggling to figure out what that idea is? What have you found worked for you that was different when you had your certain level of success take off versus when you were struggling and sort of failing a little bit more often?
So the first thing is a mindset. I'll give you two things. First thing is a mindset, and the mindset is that failure is necessary. Failure is part of the process. So expect to fail along the way, and the master always expects the failure. And I'll use this analogy, right? Roger Federer, greatest tennis player in the world, maybe of all time, right? Or if Rafa Nadal is your favorite player, either or. Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal, when they play a tennis match, they don't win every point. They don't win every game. They don't win every set. So that entire match of tennis, they're hitting the ball into the net, they're hitting it long, they're going wide, they're double faulting, they're losing a set, they're coming back. For the most part, you don't see them freaking out. Like if they lose a point, they don't smash their racket and go, I lost a point, it's 15 love.
I'm a failure.
I'm a failure. They just keep going. And the idea is that they have more wins than they have failures, right? So the failures is part of the match until ultimately you keep going, and you ultimately win the match. So the master always expects that he's going to hit the ball into the net. So when you start a business, expect that you're going to fail. Expect that your first product might bomb. Expect that something goes wrong. Expect it. Like have the expectation, even though we don't want that and we're searching for perfection, perfection is not going to come, right? So that mindset of expecting it means that when you do fail, you don't beat yourself up and go, oh, I'm hopeless, this is terrible, this is no good. You're like, oh, I expected this. I knew this was going to happen. So right, now what do we do? Where do we go from here? And then you go again. So that's the first thing, a mindset. And then the second advice would be get a mentor or mentors, or join a group of mentors who can help you. The biggest leverage point I had was when I hired Ty Lopez to mentor me in 2013. Because at the time I was trying with some entrepreneurial things and I was doing okay but failing. But as soon as I hired someone who had at least 10 years more experience than me, he was able to sort of show me the way and guide me. And that cut down my learning curve, and I reduced the number of mistakes that I made. Just like in my 30-day no alcohol challenge drinking program, I'm your guide, right? Like I show you how to quit and stay quit from drinking. I show you all the techniques. Just like with these glasses, I show you how to use them, when to wear them, how to use them the best so you can optimize your sleep. You don't have to try and figure this out. You have a guide showing you the way. So in business, I would say expect failure and also hire or work with or work for a mentor.
Powerful. Now, the second question I have is, what are some failures you had, maybe entrepreneurial ideas that you tried that maybe didn't work out? And what was it about Swannies that you think allowed it to have the momentum that it has now? Were you in an inspired state at that time? Do you think you were really truly solving a problem?
Yeah.
And what was different about that idea versus some of your other failures?
When you asked me about failures, something came to mind. I was actually a dating coach for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And a dating coach for women. So I would help women how to attract a dream man. And ironically, I hated it every moment of it, but somehow I got really, really good at it to the point where I got invited to be on the Doctor's TV show on CBS, and I ended up going out to, I think it's Paramount Studios on Melrose, and was interviewed. And you can still find this excruciating interview that I did online. If you go to YouTube and type in James Swanwick Dating Secrets Doctor's TV show, you'll find it. It's kind of, I mean, I'm telling you because I can laugh at myself, but I hate watching it. And it's cringeworthy, but like I nailed it. Like I was really good, and there was a studio audience. They're all like applauding me, and but I hated that, and so I failed at it because I hated it. Like in fact, right after I did that interview on that TV show, as I was driving out of the Paramount lot, I said, "That's it. I'm not doing this anymore." It just energetically wasn't in alignment with what I wanted to do. I tried it, I became good at it, but ultimately I failed at it because it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be quick to like shut down things that don't work.
And be honest with yourself if it's aligned,
Yeah, but not if you are in alignment with it, if you're energetically aligned with it, you don't want to shut down things too early, because we just finished talking about like failures will come, right? Sure. So you do have to have persistence. But if you deep down know that this is not in alignment with who you are and your values and your morals, and this is not energizing you, get out. And I was fortunate enough that I got out then after the 3 months. Otherwise I might still be a dating coach and hating it. Probably be a very successful one because I seem to be doing well, but it just wasn't for me. So what was the other part of your question? I'm sorry, Omar.
What was different about the idea of Swanwick versus some of your other entrepreneurial failures? Yeah,
so with Swanwick, I came up with the idea. I believed in the concept of blocking blue light because I'd experimented with the ski goggles. I like kind of being out and personable and creating fun, stylish products. Like when people wear the glasses or talk about them, they always talk with a smile on their face. You know, it's kind of like a cool, fun kind of brand. So
it's part of the club,
part of the club, and it kind of energizes me. And so I think a big lesson is, and I know it's hard for people to understand this when they're desperate for money, but certainly don't pursue a product just because it makes money. Pursue a product because you believe in it and you're energetically aligned with it, and it will make money. Because I can go and do 100 different businesses right now that make 7 figures, but I'd hate doing it. And I'm always only going to get to a certain level with it before I kind of abandon it or don't put in my all. But if you passionately believe in it, or even if you just believe in it and it's doing good for people, it's doing good for you, you're not doing like a black hat, conning people, you're not scamming people. If you're genuinely helping people, then you will stay motivated and you will stay in alignment, and that ultimately will bring riches to you.
Powerful, man. Okay, and the last question I have before we wrap up is, what would you give the young James who was aspiring to do big things in the world, who at that time was living in a hostel trying to figure out, are things going to work or things not going to work out? What would be your best advice to the young James looking for answers? Because there might be people watching at any age, male, female, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, at any age, trying to make their life work and unsure if they'll find their thing or figure out their groove, or if can they too really be successful? Is it really possible? I'm sure you had moments like that. So what would you say to the young James who was looking for answers and looking to make his life work?
Yeah. So I'd say 2 things. One is just do it. So I wasted a lot of time thinking about things that I could do, and then should I do it? Should I not do it? Oh, I need things to be perfect before I do it. Just do it, and do it now. Because all we have is, as we're recording this, I'm 44 years old, and I wish I had 20 years. I wish I could go back to 24 and have the next 20 years. They would just go so much faster, because I wasted a lot of time just thinking, should I not? So the first thing is just do it and do it now. And the second thing is that I was very guilty of short-term thinking. So if I wasn't doing well in the moment compared to other people, I'd beat myself up. But now in hindsight, looking back, if you think long term, and this step is leading to this next step, which is leading to this step, which is leading to this step, you can just relax a little bit. There's no need to be manic and trying to make things happen now. I'm not saying go slowly. I'm saying go now, but you also don't go in a way that's crazy because you have to have it happen now.
You have to make $1 million your first month or whatever.
Yeah. Just go, like, it's going to take as long as it's going to take. You can eliminate procrastination for sure. You can eliminate making dumb mistakes or mistakes because you don't have a mentor for sure. And if you can eliminate that, that's going to make things go faster. But think of your life as a long-term vision. Like, why am I doing this year? How am I going this decade? What am I wanting to do like in the next decade? Have a longer-term view rather than a short-term view, and you can start to relax, be happier, be healthier, and really just have a much more positive mindset, which ultimately and ironically is going to just make your businesses so much more successful anyway.
Yeah, no, that's powerfully said. Do you find that that's been the case, that you, with less stress, you've actually been able to achieve more?
Yeah, 100%. And it's impossible to really get this through to people without them experiencing it for the first time, because I can say to you, just relax and be cool and everything will come to you, and you won't believe me. You'll still go and be stressed, right? Because I know that that's how I am. But when I reduce stress and I actively have the intention of making my stress relief a habit, like I'm writing 20 things I'm grateful for in the morning, I'm exercising, I'm eating well, I'm surrounding myself with people, reducing that stress and anxiety, being happier, it's amazing how many more opportunities come to you. Like you're interviewing me right now. We hadn't met personally before this interview, right? But we'd been connected. You'd worn my Swannies blue light blocking glasses.
Long time, yeah. 2 years now, yeah.
And you know people who I know, right?
Yes.
So when they've spoken of me, I'm assuming they haven't said, "Oh, James, he's an arsehole," or whatever, right? Like,
no, all good things.
All good things, okay. So that's not to blow smoke up my ass and say I'm so wonderful. It's just when I'm happy and I'm engaged, other people feel happy and engaged in my company. And then you reached out to me and said, "Can we interview you on the show?" And now this is a great opportunity. Now we're connecting. You and I are able to give value to your audience. You get a win, I get a win, the audience gets a win, everyone gets to win. If I'm stressed and anxious all the time and I'm being like an abrasive asshole to people, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So be happy, be stress-free as much as you can, relax as much as you can, focus on positive mindset, and it's amazing how much positive energy you start attracting to your life. Not even intentionally trying to bring it in, but just by your way of being, you just attract other people on a similar positive mindset.
Energetic wavelength,
Yeah.
totally. Okay, and then this is a bonus question. So what about for entrepreneurs or people in general, entrepreneurs or not, who are trying to make their life work, but also maybe drinking or smoking, or maybe smoking weed or smoking cigarettes, and maybe they know they probably shouldn't, but they want to make a shift. What advice would you give to people about the powers of having a clean mindset and what you've seen over time with that?
So not much has happened to me since I gave up smoking and drinking. I've only hosted a TV show, SportCenter on ESPN, created a couple seven-figure businesses, traveled the world, got the body that nature intended me to have, attracted amazing relationships, created incredible opportunities, feel the way nature intended me to feel. And when you remove alcohol, when you remove stimulants like cigarettes, when you remove drugs, you are the way that nature always intended you to be and feel. And when you are in that power, opportunity just comes to you. And you get to create it. So you get to consciously create it, and then unconsciously, you attract it. So, look, is the occasional drink going to kill you? No. But why even have the occasional drink? Because now you're thinking that it's something pleasurable. I'm telling you, I work with entrepreneurs all the time who want to quit drinking, and when they quit drinking, they tell me quitting drinking led to them making $250,000 more in their business. Quitting drinking saved their marriage. Quitting drinking helped them create this new product idea. Because quitting drinking and stimulants for, can be smoking or drugs or porn or whatever, gives you clarity, gives you focus, gives you energy, creates opportunity, and attracts positivity. And that is how you build successful businesses.
A successful life.
And a successful life, not just successful business, a successful life, yeah.
Beautiful, man. So real quick, before we wrap up, at the end of every interview, we always play a game called First Things First with every guest. The way the game works is I'm going to rifle off a word or phrase, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
So I'm going to rifle off 10, I say one, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Cool.
The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. First word, Swannies.
Stylish.
What all or most celebrities you interviewed have in common?
Positive mindset.
Your failures.
Part of the process.
Traveling.
Venture, fun, living.
Your first $1 million.
Pride.
Best advice you've ever been given.
Just do it and do it now.
Worst advice you've ever been given.
I'll come back to it. Next question.
Freedom.
Travel, lifestyle, entrepreneur, friendships, deep conversations over dinner.
Passion.
Travel, creating lifestyle businesses that help people.
And the last one, contribution.
Invigorating, energizing businesses I create around contribution. Then the worst piece of advice that I've ever got, I'm still stuck on this, but I know there's something powerful to finish with. The worst piece of advice I ever got, I'll tell you what, the worst piece of advice I ever got was to keep my hair. I suffered from hair loss. I tried to cover up my hair loss for many years. I'd put stuff in my hair and do all this kind of stuff to eliminate the visible signs of hair loss.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was like, "Oh no, I think it looks good. You should just keep doing that." And so I ended up doing that, like trying to make it look thicker than it actually was for 3 more years. Nah, worst piece of advice ever. As soon as I shaved off, I was like, "Oh, I'm free. Thank goodness." It's like, oh, actually, if anyone's watching and you suffer from hair loss, reach out to me. I've been there. It was an emotional thing for me, but now I feel fantastic and amazing. I'm rocking the look. But that was terrible advice to keep trying to hang on for dear life.
Yeah, liberated by that.
Yeah.
And then a bonus one I have is, what do you hope people who watch this interview and enjoy this, what's the first thing you would encourage them to do to elevate their life and make their life start working just a little bit better?
Can I do 2 things? So for sure, I would do the daily 20 exercise that I suggested. Start writing down 20 things you're grateful for, and absolutely invest in a pair of blue light blocking glasses, whether they're mine or some other companies. Get them and start wearing them consistently in about the last 30 minutes or hour before you want to go to sleep at night. To be clear, you don't wear them to sleep. You take them off just before bed, but that's a massive game changer. And it's not just really the glasses, it's really focusing on your sleep quality, because if you can really increase your sleep quality or improve it, your whole life is going to transform.
Thank you so much, James. It's been
You're
an honor
welcome,
to have
Omar.
you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for enjoying this video. And if you found this content valuable, uplifting, and inspiring to take your life and your business to the next level, then I have some exciting news for you. Because the Passionate Few Academy officially launched our brand new on-demand training that you can access absolutely free at www.tpfacademy.com. Right there, you'll learn the #1 way to grow your personal brand or business brand online fast. The same way I've learned from interviewing some of the most successful people on the planet right here on the show who've done exactly that. So again, don't forget to check it out, www.tpfacademy.com. I promise you'll be blown away. And also, don't forget, there's 3 ways you can connect with me further. #1, you can text me absolutely free at the number on the screen right now and send me your most pressing life, business, or branding question, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. #2, if you'd like to be interviewed on the show, you can actually apply right now in the description below and apply to share your incredible story, brand, or business right here with an audience of potentially millions of people, the same way we've helped experts, entrepreneurs, and authors just like you. And don't forget, that opportunity comes with the ability to partner with us and help feed 1 million people through our partnership with Feeding America. Again, you can click the link in the description below titled Interview Application to find out more. And last but not least, #3, if you'd like to get consulting from our team and work with you to help you grow your personal brand or business brand, no matter what industry you're in, we can do that by simply filling out the questionnaire in the description below titled Consulting Application. And if our team thinks that you'd be a great fit, who knows, you may just be invited to work with us to help you take your business to the next level. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for enjoying this video. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, turn on post notifications so you never miss an episode. And until next time, live strong, live with passion, and I'll see you in the next inspiring video.